Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically crack open and feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me as always is Lauren, and today is episode 239, where we pay homage to one of our founding fathers. No, I'm not talking about the fact that George Washington defeated General Cornwallis on the Yorktown battlefields October 19th, 1781. I'm talking about George Romero, the founder of the zombie genre. We are going to talk about we're going to talk about Night of the Living Dead and talk about a lot of good things with that. But first things first, please go ahead, like, subscribe, share, follow, hit the notification button on YouTube. We go live pretty much every week for a Cantina Hour where we just hang out. This past week, we did like a hurricane episode because Lauren was getting impacted by Hurricane Milton. And then
hunkering down. Hopefully I'm still alive when this airs. That's gonna be really bad if I'm not. Damn.
If she's not, it's because she drank a lot of 9%ers and she's out there wobbling in the hurricane. And I
am a Florida woman.
Tonight, when this airs, October 14th, we will be hanging out with those who joined us for Hops Geek Booze for Haley to watch Freddy vs. Jason together in our Patreons as a part of our Patreon movie night. Patreon.com/HopsGeekNews to support the show. If you want to just buy us a beer, one-time support the show. There's zero pressure. Send $1 if you want. You don't have to send anything, man. Just tell us we're doing great.
I mean,
it's true. Lauren might be dead. We got to do her funeral. I don't know if she's up to her life insurance.
This is going to age really bad if something does happen.
She's going to be the Night of the Living Dead. Oh, no.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, man, if you PayPal.com/HopsGeekNews, that's what we got going on. This is episode 239. And if this is your first time, we like to talk about what we're drinking, some news, some what we're reading or watching, and then we go into our main topic. So our beers, I say beers because we're both drinking the same beer. It happens once in a while, is from Stacy. Her husband, Jake, brews this beer from Two Roads Brewing Company. It is Roadsmary's Spawn. It is a pumpkin maple
sweet can.
It is like they redid the can this year. It's pretty dope. Shipyard, their Smashed Pumpkin redid the can too, which I'm here for. But it's a 7.5% ABV, and like I said, pumpkin maple pecan. Take the road less traveled. It's a really good beer, man. Nice little dark. Got that pumpkin smell as soon as you crack it open. Lauren, what are your thoughts on the beer?
It's delicious. I'm very like 50-50 on pumpkin beers. They're either overly sweet or they're nice and calm. Like this is not overly sweet. It is very good. You got the pumpkin right away. Like it smells like Halloween. It's like what you want to be freaking drinking when you're passing out candy.
It's 60 degrees here, and I got the window open, and it's fitting the vibe, dude. The leaves are crunching.
I don't think it's 6. It is 76 here, but
that's still pretty chilly. That's some pretty good weather.
It's only 76. Well, no, I guess 76 is fine. It's nighttime.
For Florida, I think that's pretty decent, I would say. I think.
We're going to be in the 60s next week, but that's probably because we have a hurricane. So we are recording right now. It is Wednesday at 7 p.m., and the hurricane is supposed to be passing us at I don't think till 8 a.m. So we're still good. We had some tornado warnings earlier, but right now it's calm. I don't hear anything.
It's creepy. The calm before the storm, they always say, right? So,
well, it's been rainy off and on today. Well, it's been rainy for the most part, and
a lot of tornadoes.
Plants always get so deformed during these hurricanes. We always have plants that are we have to pin them up, but I mean that's your only damage. We were definitely #blessed for sure.
True. True. Hopefully everybody's good, but.
Yeah, I mean, we've had friends with water damage has been the biggest thing, but yeah, we just talked about this for a while. I definitely have these 9%ers hitting.
Go back and listen to our Cantina Hour if you want some of that talk, YouTube, all that good stuff. So let's talk about what we've messed up on.
What is the ABV on this?
7.5. See, she doesn't even listen to me anymore, guys. You hear that? Crazy.
I was checking my beer into Untapped because Micah said Untapped is dead, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to check in my beer for Micah and for Stacy because Stacy gave us this
People still use Untapped?
I just checked in my beer for the first time, probably since I was in Europe.
I should, because I hate when a brewery, you click on their menu and it takes you to Untapped. And I'm like, I'm automatically out, dude. No. Anyways, I want to shout out some people that helped donate for a good cause. Hops Geek Booze for Haley. That is our run of the month where we basically, for a friend of Lauren's, they lost her daughter when she was only 4 years old to pediatric brain cancer. And so we it's a friendly competition where we combine with the UCF group to basically you're spending $40 to do a virtual run, walk, you can bike, or dude, you can just donate if you wanted to. And we want to say thank you to Stacy, Tabby, Scott, Patrick, Micah, Andrew, Megan, Riley, and Tom. They went ahead, they signed up before October, which means they get a fancy little medal and it goes to a really good cause. They're going to join us for our movie night tonight. And then you can still sign up till the end of October. And if you sign up before the end of October, you enter ours specifically, you are going to get entered to win a random prize pack. We don't know what it is yet. That all depends if you're a Patreon or not, who wins. And we're going to spin the wheel of justice and you could win
but
something.
If you know what, if you enter now and you don't get a medal, I will personally send you something special. In addition to being entered into the raffle. I don't know what it is. It might just be a sticker. It might be a button. It might be, I'm looking around my room like I'm going to give something away in here. But
don't give away the princess pillow because I loved the princess room last time I was there, but I got buttons.
Yes, I am in the princess room at the moment.
Who knows,
yes.
Man? The point is, it's not about getting something for free. It's about doing something for a good cause because there's so much negativity in the world.
If you want something for free, you can do a good cause and I'll send you something for free. And I'll send you something. What do you want? Anything up to $20.
Lauren, that could go down a very dark path very quickly. Okay.
Oh, no.
Be careful what you say. You should put some limitations on that.
Okay.
Speaking of inappropriate, why don't you go ahead and tell us this could be one of our last updates for Deadpool Wolverine.
So they still have not surpassed, as far as overall best-selling movies, they have not surpassed Star Wars yet. However, they did break a new record, and that was on October 1st. You can now download them, stream them. You still have to pay for it. It's not on Disney Plus yet, but they were the best first-day seller of 2024.
We thought for sure it would be on Disney Plus, and so October 14th, which is today when this episode drops, we're going to go ahead and because of Scott, like we love Scott, and he was like, let's do Deadpool Wolverine. October 14th works for him.
Do it. We just can't do it yet.
We are. By all means, Scott, if you're listening to this, we are going to do that dang episode or watch along. We just can't do it yet. I'm sorry.
Such a good movie. But I was even thinking like we have it downloaded. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch that if it was out.
Oh yeah. So Lauren's talking. Yeah. We just unfortunately couldn't do a watch party yet because it's not on full stream like Disney Plus. Like
and I started to go into lawyer anxiety mode where like we can't.
Lauren's like, it has to be legal. And I was like, Lauren, I'm not doing illegal things. And then she threatened me with bankruptcy law. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. I'm scared.
I did overreact a little. I'm like, this is fraud across state lines. We can't distribute this. But it's fine. I started to a very like dark place where I think like the worst situations. And Josh, like if Josh doesn't say, "Oh, it's fine," that makes me more like Josh is always like, "What's the worst that's ever happened?" Like one
Josh is like me, like screw it, let's do it.
No, but when I was practicing law full time, I remember like I would regularly be constantly stressed about my clients and wanting to get the best for them and this and that. And oh my God, my clients are going to lose their house if I don't do this. Da 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 da. And Josh is like, "What's the worst that's ever happened? Has anything bad ever happened?" And I thought about it, and I'm like, no, everything always ends up working out because I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but I always still go to the worst. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to stream this movie before it's like readily available to everybody. And it's going to go across state lines. And it's a federal, that's pound me in the ass, jail, prison right there. Like,
oh my God.
I could like
fuck us anywhere.
That's from a movie. Pound me in the ass. Pound me in the ass. I know.
It's always Don't Fuck Us Anywhere. It's from Pineapple Express. I will take you outside and fuck you in the streets. And he's like, don't fuck us anywhere. Yeah.
So yeah, that's
anyways.
But once it's streamable on Disney Plus, which we all have, we will do Deadpool.
We will do it because we owe Scott. We do mainly for Scott, but also for Lauren. But we do owe Scott. Anyways, Lauren, what have you read or watched this week?
So I did finish reading and I watched Salem's Lot. We talked a lot about that on our Cantina Hour, so I won't dive into that. But my comic book reviews for this week. One was the Ahsoka comic. So the Ahsoka comic is obviously it's Star Wars Ahsoka. It's from Marvel. And the comic out right now is literally just recapping the show. So if you really liked the show and you want to collect those, that's a great thing to do. They just released issue 4. Obviously that leads into issue 5, which was the best one ever. If you haven't watched it, and you don't have time to watch it, grab the comics and it'll catch you right up on there, looking for Thrawn, looking for Ezra kind of thing that's going on. The cover art I thought was fantastic. It was a great nod to Ray Stevenson. But I'm going to be very blunt. I did not rate it
As you
overly
should.
high because it is just repeating the story. So if you loved Ahsoka and you watched it, you really don't need to read these unless you want a refresher. So
Fair.
I'm going to be honest. I know comic books are expensive. So if this isn't one that I'm like, yes, absolutely go out and get this. It's Disney, it's Marvel, it's Star Wars. But I do love Ahsoka. And if you want to revisit it in, short little bursts, this is the way to do it. And that's easy to find. It's just Ahsoka issue 4 came out. The other one
I
I
don't
reviewed.
really know
Go
how
ahead.
they did with, sorry, I was just gonna say they did with like the Mandalorian. I like the intent. I like that it gives people an opportunity to draw and take their own take on this. But if I saw the show, like, why don't you do the comic and fill in the gaps that the show isn't filling in, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I thought it was because we
Yeah.
do these reviews for Nerd Initiative. So we get them, a little bit early and we get them digitally. And most of the ones I get digitally, I also buy because I just want them in my collection. It's the same reason I should
Facts.
probably be getting these Stephen King books from the library, but instead I'm buying them because I want to put them on my bookshelf after, like it's a, like I'm a hunter and it's my trophy. But this is not one I'm going to go buy. This is not a collection I need because honestly, I have it on Disney Plus. I enjoyed watching the show more than I did enjoy reading the comic. But if you just don't have enough hours in the day and you want to stay on top of what's going on in the Star Wars world, then yeah, grab the comic. But again, like I understand like comics are not cheap. I spend more on comics than I should. So, a Disney Plus subscription is cheaper than comic books. Probably not for long because it keeps going up.
Well, that's why I told you, like, I'm going to pretty much subscribe to the Hulu Max and
yeah. But when I agreed to take it, I was like, hey, I'll take Ahsoka. I thought it was filling in the gaps for other stuff. I didn't know it was just a recap of the season.
I honestly didn't either. But it is what it is. But you did read another book, though.
Yes, Crocodile Black by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Sam did the art. So I've talked about this before. This was issue 5 and it wrapped up the story, but the way it wrapped up the story felt like it was just a beginning for this main character. What I absolutely love this comic, and they will be doing a trade back in a few months. If you'd rather just, wait for the trade back, I understand that. I'll bring it up again before it comes out because it was really, really good. It goes into mental illness, but it's like the child. So the guy, I don't want to say what happens. Something happens with his little brother because that's a mystery point. There's so much mystery in it, but they do unravel it all. Something happens with his brother and he's dealing with that. And he has like PTSD from the situation. But what comes up, there are times where I was questioning myself. I'm like, is this a supernatural story or is this a metaphor? I wasn't sure what they were getting at, but I don't know that I was supposed to know. Because the visuals seemed like it was a supernatural story where this like monster or this crocodile was taking over almost in a way that somebody who's mentally ill that has multiple personalities would have somebody else take over for them because they can't handle the stress. So in stressful situations, you would see this gorgeous art with this crocodile. But I always was like, this is a metaphor. It's got to be a metaphor. But the way it ended made me question what I thought on both levels. I don't know if I was right. I don't know if I was wrong. I don't know if I was supposed to know if I was right or wrong.
I love when a comic book does that, or just a story in general does that. It makes you question your own self, right?
Right. And then I'm like, am I missing something? And then I'm like, I don't know that I am, but it was absolutely fantastic. It has there's like a cop mystery going on. There's a mob story mixed in all this. Ooh. There's mental health issues going on. There's so much going on, and it's only like when I look back, I'm like, how was that only 5 issues because so much went on? But it was so good, and I really hope that this comic does well because I would like to see more. Again, that is Crocodile Black from Boom Studios.
Boom does really good like horror. I think they're a little underrated in the horror aspect for people because I read some horror stuff by them this year, and dude, Boom's doing a good job, man. Really good job. Yeah,
and I saw Philip Kennedy Johnson's going to be at MegaCon, so I'm like, ooh.
He's
might need to go get a
dude. The MegaCon comic book announcement. James Tynan's going to be there.
Oh. Yeah, I saw that. I just ordered all of the. Okay, well, it's her birthday. If she wants to,
she needs to go to Disney for her birthday, and I'll just side trip to MegaCon with you. Okay.
I had a lot of fun with her when we went to Salt Lake. Just the 3 of us. That was actually a lot of fun.
It was fun.
But yeah, so I have not. So obviously, I've something's killing the children because he's going to be at New York Comic Con and doing a House of Slaughter thing. So I've ordered all the House of Slaughter books, but they're getting delayed because of the stupid hurricane. So they were cheaper to order from Target than they were Amazon because my comic shop didn't have all of them.
And it's supposed to have been Amazon Prime Day Part 6 this year? God.
I ordered, so there's 4 trade backs so far. I ordered 1 from Amazon and 3 from Target because they were cheaper on Target. Target, has gotten a lot of comic books lately. They are actually...
I'm surprised, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing... always, if you can get it at your local comic book shop, go there. But if you're grocery shopping, wondering Target, go
picking up your pumpkin cheesecake Ben & Jerry's.
Books from the comic books, man.
Man, there's a really cool... Anyways, I've been drinking. There's a really cool Mickey Mouse Lego set out that is all... Anyways.
Anywho. What have you been reading or watching this week? Because I took a long time to explain what I was.
No, I've been reading a lot. I will start with Terminator issue number 1 out of Dynamite Entertainment. So... This is done by Declan Shalvey, Luke Sparrow, Colin Craker, and Jeff Eckelberry. Basically, this is a story of Terminator, right? We all know the story of Terminator. They love to go back in time and kill John Connor, Sarah Connor. Well, they failed.
Spoilers.
I know. And so the premise of this story is that the Terminators now are sending Terminators throughout different periods of time to kill people for the resistance, whether it's their relatives down the line, the people in the resistance themselves.
So it's not just John Connor's line.
No, they failed at killing John and Sarah Connor. So now they're going throughout time. And it's actually really good, man. This issue has an old couple. They've evaded this Terminator for a long time. The Terminator finally finds them after decades. That's how freaky and horror. This adds horror back into the Terminator aspect. Terminator is kind of a horror in a little bit with mostly action. More so the action as they've kind of made.
I mean, I saw the first one at way too young and fucking terrified me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Terminator 1, horror. Terminator 2, the T-1000.
Well, that's
badass.
Fun. Yeah, T2 is fun. T1 traumatized
T1
me.
But so this one goes back to horror. And so that's kind of where we're leaning with this one. Great comic. Cannot recommend that one enough. Then I also read Star Wars Ewoks, Dangers from the Stars. It's a little mini series. We're going back to the forest moon of Endor. Obviously the Return of the Jedi has just ended. This one is done by Steve Orlando, Alvaro Lopez, Laura Braga, Antonio
So is it
Fabella.
A cookbook on how to eat stormtroopers?
No, I mean, it could turn into that because the reason I say because is they open up with the story of, the bad guys came, the good guys won. Everybody left, but now there's an Imperial remnant out there that knows there's a weapons cache on the forest moon of Endor. So they're sending bounty hunters and themselves there. And now the Ewoks are going to have to fight to defend their planet again. But they do something cool in this comic where they introduce another species of Ewok. They're these taller green variations. It's pretty cool. They introduce different creatures. So it's setting up this little group of a stormtrooper and an admiral, and then a group of bounty hunters looking for this cache of weapons. And now the Ewoks are going to have to defend their home planet, which is pretty cool. And it kind of gives personality to the Ewoks because you get to translate it from their language. It's them talking, telling the stories, talking about their tribes. They have a very tribal, simplistic way of doing things. And the artwork was cool because you get to see variations of Ewoks. So I'm really ready for some badass Ewok action. The first issue is pretty rad. I really recommend that. Aside from that, I've read Absolute Batman #1 from Scott Snyder.
Okay, so I need to grab this, right? I need to pick this up.
Oh my God. I cannot tell you that this might honestly be the best Batman story of all time. And this is only one issue.
Right.
So I might be overreacting.
My comic shop, I assume, was closed today because of the storm. But yeah, when it opens, I am going to get this one.
This is a Bruce Wayne who didn't grow up rich.
What?
Maybe one did, maybe one didn't. I don't want to give too much away. So this is a Bruce Wayne who grew up in Crime Alley. He grew up poor. So he's making himself into this menace. That's why he's lifting weights. He's making himself huge. He's punching upwards, not downwards. He's punching upwards to the villains. Alfred is this MI6 guy who's come to spy on this one group of people, but Batman's in the way. They go toe to toe. It's a good take. It's a very cool take on Batman's mythos. Batman. This is really Nick Dragata does the art. Dude, This is an absolute must grab. It might be the best Batman story I've
Was
ever
that a
read.
pun?
Yes.
Absolute must grab.
Yes.
So going back to Terminator, I think that after Christmas, we need to do a Terminator episode. Like we need to revisit the movies because like I have not seen the newer ones and I feel like they were, I've seen the old ones, but we're going to do that. So we're going to put a pin in there. So, okay, go up back to, and I will be picking up Absolute Batman this week.
So yes, that's really good. I have watched screeners for Shrinking.
You're so lucky.
I got the first 7
panel at New York next week.
You got accepted?
No, I got the panel. So I reached out to them for press, and they got back to me and said they're not doing that anymore. But I did. I initially did not take the panel because I didn't want to take it from somebody else because like I land in Newark at 9:20 and I'm literally going to get an Uber and go straight to the con because you can pay to check your suitcase and the panel's at 11. So, pray there's no hurricanes and my flight's not delayed and I make it. Dude. I will be at that panel. God. But
I can't say anything yet because this episode premieres a day
right. You're embargoed or whatever. But I mean, season 1 was phenomenal. If you have not watched Shrinking, like Apple Plus is one of the cheaper streaming services. It is 100% worth it just for Shrinking. I know this is going to sound crazy. I like Shrinking more than Ted Lasso. I loved Ted Lasso.
Me freaking too. Yes.
I think
God.
It's also because it's
if
like
you like Ted Lasso, you're
yeah.
Okay.
So Ted Lasso is so phenomenal and so positive and so green flag, whereas Shrinking is full of red flags, but green flags too. Does that make sense?
It's trauma and how people are dealing with it, even though they're equipped. I can't.
But it's like I try to explain it to Jess. So Jess does like therapy, and so I'm trying to explain to her, and she's like, "No, I can't. That's like work." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. He's dealing with his wife's death with coke and hookers. He's a therapist."
Season 2, man. So you can read my full review Tuesday, October 15th. Spoiler free, of course.
On your birthday.
On my birthday, God bless. I watched the first 7 episodes. That's all I can say. I did. We talked about Salem's.
Old man Harrison Ford is phenomenal because let's face it, he's been a grumpy old man his whole life.
Yes.
But now it's just
he's my spirit animal.
I can't
Salem's Lot. We talked about Salem's Lot on our Cantina hour. And then I watched Agatha, which this show is so incredible.
No, we talked. Oh, we didn't talk about it.
We didn't.
You're right. We didn't talk about it.
Dude. First of all, I just noticed
it's on tonight. We can watch the new one tonight. Yay!
This show is awesome. I don't want to say anything because I think we're going to end up doing like a full season recap. And then I did watch The Penguin. If you're not watching The Penguin,
I only watched episode 1. I wanted to watch it last night.
Best show on television right now.
So I didn't.
The best show on television right now, bar none. Maybe I'll watch
that tonight too. And then I can watch them again because I probably won't remember them because I'm drinking a lot of beer.
You have to. Yes, just catch up on The Penguin. Again, that's something else we're going to table for later on. Let's go into news. What do you want to start with?
We don't have too much news. McDonald's is bringing back the Boo Buckets again.
Yes! I love the Boo Buckets.
Did you get the Boo Buckets?
No, I went today to get my kids.
Today, right?
I went there because they were either going to have the Boo Buckets or they were going to have the Croc little things in the kids' meals. They had neither. So I drove around. I saw in the window, they were advertising the Minions. I said, fuck this. I'm out. I will not support that cause. I'm waiting for the Boo Buckets, but I really wanted the little Croc charm, man, for my keys. You know, I love Crocs, I got Crocs right here.
You like Crocs? I didn't know.
I'll keep that thing on me.
Somebody posted on one of the Disney pages yesterday where it was like you guys got to be careful. There's a croc out by Splash Mountain today. And I'm like, it's not going to be a croc. It's an alligator, you dumbass. And apparently it was a croc, like the show.
I saw somebody put their croc in a flood, their flood water.
But it really threw me off because I've literally seen videos of alligators right next to the Splash Mountain thing. But I remember having the Boo Buckets when I was little. We used to hang them on the trees.
They're awesome. I love Boo Buckets for no reason. Then that's like, I don't know. It's fun.
But aren't they tinier now? They're not as good.
They are tinier now. But you know what's not tiny? However, it's sold out is the Bat Signal popcorn bucket. Sold out. AMC theaters are bringing it back in 2025. Don't worry. But they did bring it this year. It's already sold out, which I'm not surprised because it lights up and everything. You know me, I'm a sucker for popcorn buckets. Yeah. That's
so crazy how big popcorn buckets have gotten. like at
I know.
Disney and at the movies. Like it's
I
it's so
know.
funny.
Like, I think it was Dune. It was honestly Dune was the start. Like, they made an
Oh, with the
inappropriate
dirty
looking
one.
popcorn bucket. Now everybody's doing popcorn buckets, man.
Well, I mean, I remember getting like cups. Like I have like, although that might have been a
Yeah, the
gas
cups. Well,
station.
no, they
I have
actually, I
like a
think they've been doing
Thor
cups and
cup
stuff
from
for a
like
while, actually. Yeah.
2011.
But the
Yeah, because we
popcorn buckets
haven't.
weren't elaborate like they were until now.
Actually, I have this. This is from 7-Eleven. There's the first Thor movie
I'm literally
from
drinking out of my
7-Eleven.
Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania. Like, I have water in this
That's so
cup because it's
funny.
big.
So this I actually keep pens in, and like I never ever get big gulps or anything from 7-Eleven. But I guess I ended up saying yes in 2011 to Kaylee because it was Thor,
How
and
could
it
you
came with a
not?
little because I never buy that crap. But it came with a straw that had Thor on it, and I have Thor hanging in my I took him off the straw and he's hanging in my bar. And
See,
Jesus
how could you
Christ, this was
not?
13 years ago.
Wow. It's held up, man.
God,
I
he looks
did.
like a baby, even though in Asgardian years he shouldn't have
He
aged
is a
at
baby in
all.
Asgardian years. I do want to take this piece of news because I'm really excited, man.
No,
Austin
I want it.
Pierre. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I don't care. You're good.
Oh, Austin Pierre has been cast as Jon Stewart. You might know him from Netflix's
From The
Rebel
Daily Show?
Ridge. No, what?
Jon Stewart hosts The Daily Show.
Oh, duh. Oh, come on. I love this casting anyways because first of all, if you've seen Rebel Ridge on Netflix, he's a phenomenal actor. Man, it's kind of like a Rambo, modern day Rambo almost. Definitely recommend that. But his eyes are beautiful. He's got beautiful eyes. And Jon Stewart has like his green eyes. I don't know, man. Kyle Chandler though has officially been cast as Hal Jordan. And so the series actually takes place as two intergalactic cops are drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. So we got our Hal Jordan, we got our Jon Stewart. I'm excited for a proper Green Lantern show because that's what this is going to be. And I can't wait, man.
Did you see the video of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds where they were doing like the Disney Channel thing?
I did,
And
yes.
Ryan,
And he turned him, he put the mask on him.
and then he was like, yes, that was so good.
Yeah,
So anybody
it
didn't
good.
see that, I'm sure it's on Ryan Reynolds' thing, but like Ryan Reynolds did the thing with the wand where he makes the M or makes the Mickey, and then Hugh Jackman comes on and they're making games like, oh, I guess he's played more than one Wade. And then Hugh Jackman does this little wiggle with the wand.
You
and he
forgot
turns
to do
into
your
Green
wand
Lantern.
thing because Hugh Jackman storms off and then he does the mat. Oh,
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
And then they just did a whole thing today with like Hugh Jackman's doing a show in New York. And so they redid the whole thing where Ryan Reynolds goes, hey, Hugh, do you want to play Wolverine again? He's like, yeah, sure, Ryan. So they filmed the whole thing again to promote that. And then at the end, Ryan Reynolds is like, I'm not in this, am I? And he's like, no, you're not. And then he's like, it's a fantastic video. I love them both so much. I wish I could get back up to New York to see that again, but ugh. So yeah, this is a random fun fact, which I know we've said on here before, but I'm gonna say it again because who knows when I said it and how long ago it's been, and if anybody even remembers. Do you know what planet Obi-Wan Kenobi comes from? It's not a joke.
No.
He comes from the planet Stewjon, after Jon Stewart. Because Jon Stewart asked, yeah, we've said this before.
Remember we got that wrong on the Disney cruise. Remember they asked where Obi-Wan Kenobi was from and we didn't know Stewjon?
No. What?
Yeah, we got it wrong. Maybe you
didn't remember Stewjon?
No, I don't think you were with me. I took the kids. I took Austin and Brielle and Harper to a Star Wars.
I know.
We got one wrong.
I'll never win Star Wars trivia.
Yeah, we got Stewjon wrong.
I remember when I got. Oh, really? So if I had been there, you guys might have won?
Yeah, that was the only question we got wrong.
What?
Yeah.
That was literally in an interview. Like Jon Stewart's like, "Hey, George Lucas, what planet he's from? You know what? Stewjon," and that became canon. Wow, I didn't know that. But look at all the information we're learning.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do we have? Chaos on Netflix has been canceled after one season and will not get a season 2.
I didn't watch it, but you guys did. I thought I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I mean, it had Jeff Goldblum as Zeus. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and it was funny. Like, I kept telling Kaylee, my daughter's a history major. She fell in love with history when she read the Percy Jackson books and fell in love with Greek mythology.
Oh, yeah.
And she like right away, because Rose from Doctor Who's in it, and right away she was like, oh, I knew Rose was going to be Cassandra. And like, I need to talk to her more about it since she's finished it. But it's what the fuck,
Netflix, listen, this, like, whether this show is good or bad, it's really hard to get invested in any series or anything that Netflix puts out because they can't, like, they cancel stuff after one season. Like, why am I incentivized to watch something Netflix is putting out when I know they're probably going to cancel it after one season?
Do you think they just give a fuck because we all like have like our T-Mobile pay for it or some shit?
But even then, T-Mobile doesn't pay for all of it because they keep jacking their prices. And so, but they have trash television like The Circle keeps going on. Like, that's season 7. So it's like,
that's probably cheaper to make than paying Jeff.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. But it's just so frustrating. It's like, you want me to get invested? I'm not going to get invested because you're just, it makes me so frustrated because it sucks.
With the reality shows, like my friend Chad did the Squid Games, and like I'm talking to him, he's like, oh no, I lost weight. He's like, that food was really bad. So it's like they're, they can cheap the not celebrities in every way they can.
Exactly. They nickel and dime you. They raise up all of the subscriptions, right? And then they cancel all their shows. So it's like,
but
no wonder people aren't watching stuff, because if they get invested, it's just going to get canceled anyways.
Right. But I think that like us, it's like, I'm not going to cancel Netflix, not just because Supernatural's on there, but because
Supernatural's on there.
Because T-Mobile pays for it. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, they pay for most of it, $11.
So they're still getting, I mean, honestly, oh my God, I like had a panic attack the other day on Netflix. I was going to put on Supernatural to run to, and something under it said like leaving Netflix soon, and I thought it was Supernatural, and I was like, no.
If it was Supernatural, oh my God, I'd be so fucked because I'm on 13.
I need to buy I need to buy season 1 though, because everything I've heard is the music is so much better. We'll get to that one day. I'm gonna get it and we'll talk about it, because I've heard there's even scenes where they had to like edit Dean's mouth because he was singing along to the music. But yeah, we both went to take a sip at the same time. All right, so Dunkin' Donuts, there's news.
Yeah, so October 16th, they are going to have their equivalent of the Boo Buckets with like munchkins and stuff like that. I'm excited. I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to get them hooked up, And then we do have one last piece of news. Goosebumps fans, I enjoyed the first season of Goosebumps on Disney+. Not everybody feels that way, Sean.
I still haven't watched it. I need to watch it. That was Jack Black, right?
No. That's the movies. This one is Justin Long. It's the series that came out last year on Netflix.
Sean Metalcore Nerds didn't like it?
Of course. No, he didn't.
Oh, wow.
It's cheesy. The acting isn't the best, but like I enjoyed it for what it was.
Books are for kids.
Goosebumps at its core is cheesy. Now, I've always wanted like a more adult theme, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless, Ross from Friends will be starring in this season 2, which premieres January 10th.
Schwimmer.
Yes, it is. On Disney Plus and Hulu. It will follow the books Stay Out of the Basement, The Haunted Car, Monster Blood, and The Girl Who Cried Monster. And also it will follow The Ghost Next Door and Welcome to Camp Nightmare. So before this comes out in January, I think Nightmare. That's what I said, right?
You said Nightmare. You did that last week too. Nightmare.
Okay, you say monster, so
I was just thinking that too. I was going to say
we're talking about monsters, not cheese, Lauren. Okay.
I literally was about to say it's okay that you say nightmare because I say monster.
Yeah, we're not talking about cheese. All right. Yeah. So we will have to do a little episode on this specific group of books. I don't really remember them too well. I know Lauren was talking earlier when we were texting, like she doesn't either. So you know what, man, we're going to do that. January is kind of a barren month after Christmas. So we'll spice it up a little bit. We got you.
Sucks.
It does. I fucking hate January.
Me too.
But you know what I love? Zombies.
Okay.
I love zombies and pumpkins. Why don't we go ahead and we dive into our main topic finally, which is George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which released in 1968. So we will be back in just a moment to talk about just this. Hey, we are back, transporting you to 1968. It's crazy. It's black and white films. George Romero has a killer idea, literally, and it spawns such a great subgenre of horror that transcends the world, and we are filled with the zombie genre. We're celebrating the life and undead works of George Romero, who had actually passed away in 2017. He gave us the zombie genre. He changed horror fans' lives forever with this. And of course, we must focus on the very first movie that came out, which is Night of the Living Dead. It was released October 1st, 1968. One of the movie posters actually say they keep coming back in bloodthirsty lush for human flesh. Pits the dead against the living in a struggle for survival. This is the first time we ever really get to see zombies on the silver screen. I know it's a cheesy movie. It's 1968. Come on. But this might be my favorite zombie movie of all time. I will take that to my grave.
So it does have some cheese in it, and it's very 60s, but like that ending, that ending
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Because the ending is very unexpected. Even for a 1968 film, it catches you off guard. So,
but it had more meaning than they intended. But again, we'll get into that more.
We'll get to that. Why don't you go ahead and give us the IMDb description of Night of the Living Dead?
So a ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from a horde of flesh-eating ghouls that are ravaging the northeast of the United States. So that, again, is the IMDb description. We'll give ours a little bit more in a minute. So this is directed and written by George Romero. It's also written by John A. Russo, and it's starring Dwayne Johnson, Judith O'Dea, and Carl Hardman, as well as others. So this is my personal summary of the movie, which I watched for the first time this week. An obnoxious brother, which is redundant. I know, I have a brother. And his sister go to visit their dad's grave. Suddenly, they're attacked by a madman. The sister escapes and hides in a house with a corpse upstairs. Another man joins her. She's clearly in shock as this other man boards up the place. And then another group shows up with an injured child. The news says the zombies are from radiation that was brought in from a space probe. They actually explain what's happening. The Walking Dead never explained that. The radiation reactivated the brains of the corpses, so a headshot should do the trick because it'll the brain. The survivors fight. There's mistrust, shockingly. After the night is over, only one man remains. As he hears people coming and killing zombies, he holds up his gun, not knowing for sure what's going on, and he gets shot in the head by someone thinking he's a zombie. We then see his lifeless body dragged onto the pile of zombie bodies as they're burned. I was shocked at that ending. I'm not going to lie, like I wasn't fully invested. So we put the movie on. Logan's already asleep on my lap.
Sure.
Brielle and Josh are both asleep in 5 minutes. Kaylee calls me in the middle of the movie. Like I wasn't fully the older movies are slow. So of course I'm doing the we're overstimulated these days. I'm checking my phone. I'm still following along. But that fucking ending, my jaw dropped.
Because he's looking out the window. It's after a very hellacious night where they battled zombies. And he's looking out and there's the whole like cops and everybody coming through the field. And they see movement in the window and they shoot. And you're just like, because your first thought is like, oh, he made it. He's going to survive. So Dwayne Jones plays Ben. And you're like, oh, he's going to survive. Like this night was crazy. And then they kill him. And that's how the movie ends. And you're just like.
But there was more to it too. Because like, yes, that was shocking because your main character always survives.
Yeah.
And they're so slow. Like after they shoot him, they then show you putting the hook in them and them dragging him to the pile of zombies. And like he was a human. He wasn't a zombie. He wasn't a corpse. But so, and I actually watched this after I did my fun facts for this episode, and I read fun facts. I watched a couple little interviews with George Romero, which we will get into in a second. And he said, we never wanted this movie to be about race. They, this movie was filmed in the 60s.
It was in the 60s, so it was a very tumultuous time. Yeah.
Yeah. His main character was a black man. And so the fact that like, these are cops and other do-gooders fucking shoot this dude in the head and then drag him out with a hook and burn him with these monsters.
It's savage, man. It's such a sad ending.
Crazy. And they said, one of the fun facts we'll get to too is they filmed this. They were filming this when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. So there was a lot of racial turmoil going on in this country. I mean, fuck, there still is every day. But the 60s was, 1964 is when the Civil Rights Act first passed. Like there was, I guess you could say extra turmoil. Like George Romero never wanted this to be a race film, but that's who he cast. And to just see that ending, I was shocked on multiple levels.
It's, oh man, like he was the best character. Obviously, he was the best character. Like, I mean,
there were
Judith
times
O'Dea.
there's times I was questioning what he did, but it turns out those weren't things he wanted to do that later George Romero regretted having him do. But
I mean,
go ahead.
he really was kind of like the smartest one in the film. I mean, Judith O'Dea plays Barbara. You know, she's kind of really whiny. She's like your whiny, you know,
Brielle made a comment. Barbara always dies, or Barb, she said always dies.
My mother-in-law's name is Barb, so or you know, Barbara Jean. But yeah,
Brielle's I mean, just got, always in the mindset of Stranger Things, I think.
That's fair. Carl Hardman plays Harry Cooper. Marilyn Eastman plays Helen Cooper, the married couple, of course. And then, you know, Judith Riley is Judy, and we've got others in this film. Really, it has a 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb, right? It grossed a good amount of money back then. We already talked about what it was. So it was made for $114,000, which in today's money is $977,000. So this didn't even cost $1 million to make. However,
this movie was one of like the highest grossing movies ever for its budget.
It grossed $30 million. That's 1968 money, which is it
made 263 times its budget.
It made, in today's money, it made $257 million.
You can't say that without a pinky on your thumb. You did that wrong, Matt. You got to put the pinky up to your mouth. Now say 263 million.
This film made in 2024 dollars $257 million.
There you go.
Do. But like for real, for a 1968 film, horror film with an African American lead, and I say that because it's during the Civil Rights Movement, about zombies, which is the first introduction to zombies, and it made the equivalent to almost $260 million, and it was shot for not even $1 million itself. Like, that's
cost really $114,000 to make.
It was made for pennies on the dollar, and it grossed so much. It's impressive. I mean, that's
sadly though, because it was George Romero's first movie, he made like no money off of it.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
you're really learn.
You do. It's just, there's actually, you know, some of the things about the credits is that there's actually no on-screen copyright notice, or there's no legal disclaimers, which is typically found in movie credits.
It's fucked up.
And it's actually the main reason that the film has been in public domain since its release, which is why we have so many shitty spin-off movies that are Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Living Dead, like all of those, because of that. And then despite being billed as a collector's edition and containing many extras, the UK contender DVD appears to be missing several sequences, including most of the cannibalism scenes following the attack on the car, as well as heavily reducing the trowel murder from 14 blows to 3. None of these cuts were imposed by the BBFC, as all video/DVD releases to the UK have always been uncut. Yeah, dude, it has a big cultural impact.
It really does. I mean, you know, this is Romero's first zombie film, but it was like the first legit zombie film too.
Yeah, it was, and it started the genre.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dive into some of the fun facts. We already talked about it was the very first zombie film.
We've already gotten to a few of them. Yeah,
we've already talked to a few.
The 2004 movie. Sorry.
Go ahead. No. Speaking for a 2004 movie. Go ahead while I grab another beer.
Oh, well, look at you. You're just going through those beers. I'm a little jealous because I don't have a beer fridge in where I podcast anymore. I used to, but now I have to make an effort and get up and go get another beer, which is exhausting. So there was a 2004 movie called The 100 Scariest Movie Moments. George Romero was interviewed, and he said as soon as they were editing the film in Pittsburgh, the second they were done editing it, they put the reels into cans, threw them into the trunk of the car, and they drove straight to New York City in the hopes that somebody would screen their movie at some willing theater. The movie is very loosely based on Richard Matheson's 1954 novel, I Am Legend, which might sound familiar. It's a Will Smith movie. And Herc Harvey's A Carnival of Souls was also an influence, which that book came out in 1962. So the idea of zombies eating people, so that was not that was like the worst thing they could think of for zombies to do, because before zombies were just like undead. It was just people who had risen from the dead. So they were trying to think of like, what is something that we could make these zombies, make them be so horrible, make them be predators. And you know what? They could just eat people. And I have to say, like, I've watched all of The Walking Dead and a few of the
Yeah.
spinoffs. I've seen a lot of like eating of human flesh. The eating that they do in this movie is the grossest fucking eating of zombie shit I've ever seen, because I think it's the sounds, because it's not overly detailed. Obviously they don't have CGI. Like they're eating I'll jump ahead to another fun fact. They're eating ham and chocolate syrup, which is disgusting on its own. But the smacking of the mouth, they like over accentuated that sound. And even Brielle, she had to pause the movie. She's like, is that sound coming from outside of the movie? It was like cicadas. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's a movie. And like, she paused it because it was so freaking loud. Like the little sounds, they really put so much emphasis and it made it creepier. Matthew, you're muted.
You're right, I was. Did you already cover that the movie is loosely based on Richard Matheson's 1954 novel?
So you're going to need to go down to when the zombies are eating the bodies. What happens then?
Oh, yeah. Really good scene. So there's a whole scene with zombies eating the bodies in the burnt out truck. It's actually roast ham covered in chocolate sauce, which you talked about. Jokes are made that are, again, you did. We just talked about this. The body in the upstairs of the house was actually made by Romero himself with ping pong balls for eyes, which is really cool because it's like, really, how do you get creative at that point?
I mean, that body was creepy. It did make you do like, oh, but it looks cheesy, but it still looks good. I think you have ghost behind you. Anybody just listening, Matt's son just very slowly walked behind him. That was perfect for a Halloween episode. He almost made it creepy.
My son's decided to come in here because he's bored and sit. And I told him to be quiet.
I like the hands in the pocket. He decided
to just walk right behind the screen like that's his signs. And I'm Joaquin Phoenix looking at the video, and there's just an alien walking by like. Roar.
I hope you have some water and a baseball bat.
I do have water, but no baseball bat, unfortunately. Now, the house used for this film was loaned to the filmmakers by the owner, who planned to demolish it anyways. And when production came across the farmhouse location, George Romero jokingly stated, well, we can do that for you. The production had to completely clean up the farmhouse to make it appear livable, which is hilarious. I mean, get the squeeze, right? Like if you're going to demolish it anyways, man, by all means, squeeze it for everything it's worth. And then you get to demolish it anyways. Like,
so there was actually a scene where the car runs into a tree, like it runs like skidding against it. And so that had to be added after the car actually got hit and the dent was visible. So like I learned that fun fact before I watch it. So when I watch Barb like run against the tree as she's trying to escape the zombie, I just started laughing because it's so very clear that the mark is already there.
Yeah.
But again, it's almost like homophobia and racism and misogyny. You have to take it for what it was in the 60s. And it was great photo editing. Even going back to like when Ben like beats up the other guy and he's throwing the punches. I feel like my kids could throw better fake punches and record it with an iPad than they did in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, for sure.
But you have to take it for what it was at the time. And I think the rating is a great indication of that, because if this movie came out now, obviously it would be like, this isn't even a good student film. Not to knock George Romero at all. Like, he's fucking phenomenal. And like, we have The Walking Dead, which I didn't peep my fit. Look, I'm Rick Grimes, bitch.
You could. Yeah, no. Well, see, that's the thing. It's like, if we're talking about movies that are old, right, there's obviously no excuse for the like, again, like the racism, the homophobia, all that stuff. Right. However, in the year of 2024, we're talking about movies from the 60s. You have to look at it through a different lens because it was a different time.
Like, I think you look at it as, was this person an asshole, or was it just like, okay, you're going to watch Blazing Saddles with Mel Brooks. Like, he drops the N-word a lot, but he's literally also at the same time making fun of racism. So I feel like you have to look at it like that. Like, the people who spit at Ruby Bridges, fuck you. You were on the wrong side of history. You're a terrible human being. So I feel like it's finding that compromise. So like, George Romero or like a lot of these movies and film. Yeah. Or even, Stephen King. I'm reading a lot of Stephen King. I don't think he's
one that,
homophobic.
did not,
Right.
yeah.
Right. But a lot of this stuff did not age well. And if you read his books now, you're not seeing that homophobia and that misogyny. Although there
Right.
was one I read today in one of his short stories where I was like, dude, this husband's a piece of shit. The wife is right. Why are you saying this about her? But I'll explain more of that when I finish that book.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, like, you have to look at it, but I mean, nonetheless, like, he talked about how he didn't want it to come off as racist as the whole thing ended, you know what I'm saying? So it is just one of those things, and it's actually really progressive, like, in the fact that the way they filmed all this movie was pushing the genres forward as far as special effects, practical effects. But going into it, so S. William Hinsman based his characteristic Saunter and subsequently that of each other zombie on a film with Boris Karloff, the title of which he could not remember, but was most likely The Walking Dead, which is a 1936 production. In that film, Karloff played a man risen from the dead, walks with characteristics ungainly and Santi. And
Boris Karloff is
Saunter.
also in the Grinch.
Oh, really?
He's the voiceover. But he's also like a classic monster. Remember he did like classic monster movies, but he also like voiced.
That's right. Yes.
So I mean, I feel like that is such a household name, but you don't realize how spooky
You
and
don't
merry.
realize. Yeah, right? Okay, that makes sense. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, George Romero always got asked if the tombstone that Barbara is kneeling in front of was fake or not. He says, "Are you kidding?" says John A. Russo. "We couldn't afford fake tombstones in those days. Now you can just go to Party City, Spirit Halloween, the dollar store.
$1.25. Yeah.
You get these fake tombstones. So it's crazy that 1967, 68, you could buy a tombstone for cheaper than you get fake tombstones. Like, all right, you could have, whatever, I guess.
Well, they just used the one in the graveyard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Speaking of which, there's apparently a vampire buried in Richmond at the Hollywood Cemetery, which we'll talk about on our cryptids episode. Yeah, I found out today.
Episode. After I read Salem's Lot, I'm like, ugh,
I don't think we ever really did.
No, we haven't had a solely vampire, because I in the past I was like, yeah, vampires, I'm not into them. But the more and I did start Van Helsing today on the treadmill. I haven't finished it, the one with Hugh Jackman. Next year we're gonna have a whole vampire episode. Okay, so yeah, much like The Walking Dead, what happened?
The word zombies never actually used it, which I like. I do like that for this time period. Like, this movie makes sense. It's the first zombie film ever.
But I know, it's like, how did they never mention it in The Walking Dead?
Like, in The Walking Dead, like, come on, man. Like,
I mean, I
had to have zombies in pop culture.
I get what they're going at, to where it's not zombies. They're walkers. They're lame brains. They're biters. They come up with all these different things with all these different people. But like, not at any point was somebody like, dude, these are zombies. Really?
Yeah, like, it's interesting. And speaking of, he was actually offered to direct an episode, and he turned down directing an episode of The Walking Dead. He has a lot of friends who have worked on it. He felt it just wasn't his baby. Like, it was somebody else's, which I get. If you're a creator and you want to come into this world, like, you don't necessarily always feel right because it may not be your baby. Which
he said it felt
totally
too
respect.
Similar to, like, he did, I'm sure he's been asked the question many times, but he said it was almost like too familiar, but it wasn't mine. But like, the first time I heard the name George Romero was watching The Talking Dead with Greg Nicotero, honoring George Romero. Not honoring him like he had passed, because he was still alive when the show came out, but yeah.
Yeah. And then, Romero originally wanted to cast Betty Aberlin of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as Barbara. However, Fred Rogers stepped in and said no. Romero directed clips of Mr. Rogers when they would leave the set. And so they were good friends, but Fred Rogers said no.
Yeah, I love that though, because how in Mr. Rogers and Daniel the Tiger, they're in like the house, and then they go and they're learning about ballet lessons, or they're learning about surgeries, or like, things like, there was a whole scene where like Fred Rogers is getting an appendectomy and he's explaining to the kids, this isn't scary. Look how nice the nurse is. Look how nice the doctor is. And George Romero shot those.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So why don't you give us our last couple fun facts?
So S. William Hinsman and Carl Hardman, they were two of the original $300 investors who were cast due to a shortage of available talent. So they had to just use whoever they could. They're like, hey, you guys invested, come in, we're using you. Another investor was actually a butcher who provided some of the blood and guts, which is extra gross because you know that they are real blood and guts. They're just not human blood and guts, which is still really gross. So this movie was actually released again in color in 1990, which I love that fun fact a little extra because The Walking Dead is currently being re-released in color. And that
Oh,
is what
that's
I
cool.
have. So how did this movie really did start the zombie genre. We had
It
heard about
did.
zombies before, but so while there is zombie lore going far, far, far back, and I'm not just talking about Jesus because he was the original, he's the
He
OG
really
zombie.
is the OG zombie.
They were not human eating cannibals, though. As far as pop culture, they showed up in film around the same time as the classic monster stories. Like in 1932, we have the White Zombie movie, which is also a great beer, which New Realm
Ooh.
sometimes brews. And, that's what Catawba in, I think, North Carolina.
No, I think that one's out in I thought it was Utah. Maybe it's North
No,
Carolina.
that's
No,
East
you're
Coast.
right. That one that you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
So Brandy actually really likes that beer, and she's not huge into craft beer. You haven't met Brandy yet. You will meet her one day. However, it was Night of the Living Dead where they became flesh-eating monsters and they started to acquire a cult following. In 1985, there was a comedy horror film, Return of the Living Dead, and that is when we first saw zombies specifically wanting to eat brains.
Brains.
So these are some of the other zombie directed Living Dead George Romero
Oh my
movies.
God, there's so many. So many. Sorry.
So this is a side note real quick, and then I'll actually let you go off on these movies because you've probably seen some of them and I have
I've
not,
seen a
but I'm
good
going
amount of
to.
them, yes.
Oh, I know we talked about George Romero directing Mr. Rogers. He also, in the 70s, he directed a film called O.J. Simpson, Juices on the Loose.
Oh
That's all I
God,
have.
that's hilarious.
So,
Yes.
what happened
So
after
he
Night of the
did.
Living Dead in 1968?
This spawned, actually, it didn't spawn anything like right away. It took about 10 years before in
I mean,
1978, Dawn
cult
of the Dead.
followings take a minute.
They do. Hocus Pocus is an example, right? So Dawn of the Dead in 1978, which you might be familiar with Zack Snyder's 2004 Dawn of the Dead, which I actually really like that as well. From there, in 1985, we get Day of the Dead. And then 2005, we get Land of the Dead. Didn't really like Land of the Dead too much. Day of the Dead, I didn't mind. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the one where they're holed up in the radio studio. Land of the Dead is kind of like, they're in like a compound. Diary of the Dead, I have seen. I don't remember. I do remember watching it way back in the day. 2009 was Survival of the Dead. All of these are kind of like cheesy, like, all right, do we really need these? But we get then Twilight of the Dead was to actually be the next movie. But George Romero passed away before he got the chance. He was not happy with his series ending with Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead because they weren't good films. I'll be honest with you. They're very, very cheesy. He penned a film
Spoilers.
treatment with co-writer Paolo Zalotti depicting a conclusion to the series that explains the fate of the zombie protagonist from Land of the Dead, and an ending where humanity has become virtually extinct. Interesting. Romero had written the beginning of the script, but the project was stalled when Romero died of lung cancer in 2017. It was announced in April of 2021 that the film had been put back into development under the supervision of Suzanne Romero, with Zalotti finishing the script with screenwriters John Netter and Robert L. Lucas. Suzanne told The Hollywood Reporter that this is the film he wanted to make, and while someone else may carry the torch as director, it's very much a George A. Romero film. In August of 2023, the film was announced to start production. In fall 2023, once the SAG-AFTRA strike came to an end, a month later, it was announced that the film would be directed by Brad Anderson. Now, the IMDb page says it's the final installment to the Night of the Living Dead series, and says that the movie will follow the last humans on Earth as they fight for survival on an island filled with zombies, which I think is really interesting because when we talk about zombies, you got years now. Okay.
I've had them on the whole time.
Interesting.
Like even on our live.
I will always think of like, why don't you go on a boat to an island somewhere, which a couple of zombie films have done. And it turns out zombies walk underwater sometimes. Like people get very liberative with, if that's even a word, with the
Liberal.
zombie. Liberal. Yes, there you go. Liberative is not a word, but liberal is
That's
with
the
the
second word you
zombies.
made up tonight. You know what? Shakespeare made up words.
You know what? If you're not making up words, you're not advancing the English,
That's 3
English
words you've made up tonight.
language. And, the subsequent movies were not very good. They were very cheesy, especially, when you get to like Land of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead, I do remember they are holed up in the city. They're at a radio station. It's all very cheesy effects. Land of the Dead, it just gets like worse, man. They're inside a compound. It follows those survivors. Dire of the Dead, I'm pretty sure if I remember Dire of the Dead, somebody has a camcorder and they're recording that. And it was like a straight to DVD film at the time. That movie was, they found the recordings and it was about the beginning of the zombie thing. And it was very much not good. So George Romero pioneered this film of Night of the Living Dead, but his subsequent films were like, yikes. Like, oof. Not very.
So Brielle did not love this specific movie in 1968. She did pass out pretty early. I think she was tired. We watched it on school night. But today she asked, I think, what we were recording on, and I mentioned it. I'm like, the movie you watch, and I was like, we can watch one of the newer ones. And she's like, she looked a little hesitant on even watching one of the newer ones. But she needs to watch the classics. Like she loves watching the older cheesy, like first Friday the 13th, first Halloween. Like we watched the first Freddy Krueger
They're cheesy.
recently.
You got to go with the cheesy, like this is what it is.
Which, if you did listen to our Freddy Krueger episode and like paid $5 to rent that shit, it is now on HBO Max.
Oh, bitch! I spent $5, bitch.
Well, because Josh will regularly, every couple months, he will pull up the Amazon because we will get regular, like the kids will randomly charge. So we have to check that regularly and cancel subscriptions.
I have to. My kids will do the same shit. Yes.
Right. So he mentioned that, and I'm like, no, I did pay to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. The things I do for this podcast.
We've watched and done some really bad stuff, but we're all right. Overall, we've heard about Brielle's thoughts of, New Mutants. Oh God. What are your thoughts on Night of the Living Dead? How did you feel? What were some moments you liked, maybe didn't like, and all that kind of good stuff?
It's like a typical 60s movie or, just black and white in general. I didn't like how the women were portrayed. They're always in shock. They're always this, they're always that. It's interesting seeing the dynamic with the daughter because the daughter was bit and all that. I always, hate how weak women are portrayed in those situations. But again, it was a product of its time. It's like you watch the old legal movies and there's always a crazy woman in the audience that screams like, hang him, burn him, kill him, without any actual evidence. Right. And yeah, against another woman. It's like you didn't burn witches, motherfuckers. You burned women. But it's
or we put them on cinder blocks to the bottom of the river.
Oh my gosh.
I have a question. Do you think when they did the cinder block thing, like, did they stay there and just turn into skeletons? Did people actually find skeletons at the bottom of the river with cinder blocks from witch days? Or did they like just disappear?
Oh. I don't
I've always
know.
wondered
I would
that.
think that they pulled them up because it was a test. So I would think maybe they pulled them
They
up.
probably did pull them up. I was like, what if they never came
Jodie
up? And he just
Whittaker,
left.
Her doctor did an episode on that. Like one of the first episodes where she was like, it was the first time we saw the doctor dealing with being a woman and she was being treated like a witch. I think they were going to drown her.
I guess I've always thought about that, but you're right. They did pull them back up, but like, wouldn't it?
But if they survived, they were a witch and had to be killed further. But if they died, they were not a witch.
And then they pull them up anyways, and they do nothing with their body. Like, I almost wish they'd left them but then your water supply would have been. Anyways, I'm sorry. Tangent.
I mean, hey, throw my body in the ocean when I'm gone. That's fine. I'd rather be fish food than decay in the ground.
I want you to spread my ashes across the sports stadiums I love because I'm a simpleton. That's why.
Or you can have your ashes spread in the haunted mansion and get vacuumed up. People do that. They spread their. Oh my gosh, that's a regular thing. People will sneak their family's ashes into the park, spread them on the Haunted Mansion. Despite the Haunted Mansion looking dirty, they fucking clean it because it's Disney, and your loved one's ashes will be vacuumed up.
What if you just spread my ashes on in Galaxy's Edge?
I mean, you could probably do that. Sure. If it's in the grass, they're not going to vacuum that up.
People are weird, man.
Better than on
Haunted
a doom
Mansion,
buggy.
Okay, all right, whatever.
They want to be the 1,000th ghost. There's 999.
Oh my god, there's too many 1,000 ghosts.
Well, I mean, if you salt and burn them, there should be no remains too haunted.
That's true. Anyways, Barbara's a character was annoying. She whined too much. I will agree with that. Like, they didn't make her very strong. She was dumb too.
Always whined too much, and were always unintelligent in those older movies.
Because
women, they weren't perceived equally in that time. You got to look back too. Like you have these fucking things. It's like women didn't get the right to vote until the 20s, and they didn't get the right to have their own bank account until way later, and all this shit.
The 70s, grandma stay with grandpa. No, that's because grandma couldn't have a fucking bank account. Anyway, right. I made a mistake.
Oh, what happened to love? Because women didn't want to get beat anymore, but they didn't have anywhere else to go.
They couldn't go anywhere because grandpa had 3 families across the country, and he controlled the bank.
I mean, this was her brother, and he was treating her like a shit. But I mean, he had driving gloves, so you knew he was going to be a douche.
Listen, the man had driving gloves, and he was not racing. Yeah, you already knew. I have to go ahead and say that I messed up. Day of the Dead is a world overrun by zombies. A group of scientists and military personnel are sheltering in an underground bunker in Florida, and they must decide. All good stories start in Florida.
Day of the Dead, though, I just think of Dias de los Muertos in Mexico, like in Coco.
And yeah, okay, Land of the Dead, I was correct. The living dead have taken over the world. The last humans live in a walled city to protect themselves, and they come to grips with the situation. That I remember. And then I was right-ish about Die of the Dead, where a group of young film students run into real-life zombies while filming a horror movie of their own. So yes, I remember the camcorder. You're
fact-checking yourself right now?
I am. I had to. It was going to drive me crazy all night.
Gotcha.
Because I second guessed myself. If I didn't go in and actually look at what it was, then who knows? Okay. It would have driven me crazy. I know I've seen these movies, but I had to go back in and fact check myself. But as we do kind of wrap up here, I will say I fact check myself. This is like my favorite zombie movie because I guess in a way I'm a cinephile in that I love the classics. I love going back to basics. This is a basic film. Barbara and
we're drinking basic bitch beer.
We are. I am at the moment I'm on an Oktoberfest by Stacy. Thanks again. This episode brought to you by Stacy and Two Roads Brewing. And she's in the basement. The parents, everybody kind of gets bitten, and our boy Ben ends up dead. That's very shocking. But I love this movie. It's one that I definitely rewatch annually just for going back to basics. I'm a very back to basics kind of guy. And I love this movie. So that's all I have on Night of the Living Dead and George Romero. Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't, but I do. This was a very interesting movie to watch for the first time at this point.
Yeah.
It spawned The Walking Dead, which helped me further get into comics. So yeah, thank you, George Romero. Those are my final thoughts.
Yeah.
Very profound final thoughts.
I mean, it did. It spread the genre. Without George Romero and Night of the Living Dead, we don't have The Walking Dead. We don't have, 28 Days Later, for example, which is a fantastic. They call it the rage virus, but it's still zombies.
But I didn't like anything zombie until The Walking Dead. I was like, oh, it's cheesy horror. And then I got into The Walking Dead and I was like, ooh, these are about the humans, not the zombies.
Well, my version of zombies don't run. So I hate when zombies run because I'm like, well, they're dead. They shouldn't be able to run. These
zombies were smart. They were opening doors and shit.
Yeah, zombies. Listen, my version of zombies, for whatever reason, is they are the dead, right? They're just focused on eating. And so they don't run because they're decaying. They don't have brain function. I will say Warm Bodies was a good movie. That's with Nicholas Hoult. That is a good movie.
Yeah, I like that. And that was a comedy, but it was good. Yeah.
It was like a comedy romance. Yeah.
He's like, oh, nice watch.
But my version of zombies isn't chasing me down in the streets. That's crazy. And that's why I differentiate like 28 days later, 28 weeks later, because the rage virus has them act differently. But zombies, we've covered zombies. We've done it. Next year, we're doing vampires. It's already booked.
Ooh, ooh. Another thing I thought was cheesy that now I'm into.
Yes.
I don't know what happened.
We're not talking Twilight. Maybe we are. But
no, we're not talking Twilight.
We're not talking Twilight.
I watched like 2 minutes of Twilight. That was enough for me.
Yes. And
next week, Michael Sheen, though.
We have Venom on the books. However, that's subject to change because what were we talking about maybe doing? It's Carrie. Not my wife, but Lauren has never seen the, Carrie, the original Carrie. She's never read the book. She's never seen the reboot.
We could do Venom in November because I don't think this is a movie people are going to run out to see right away.
We get to, dude. No, first of all, I'm coming to Orlando the weekend it opens, and I will not spend my time in Orlando.
Right. When you messaged me that, I'm like, we are not doing that. And you're like, oh, no, I didn't want
situation. I was just telling you, like, hey, fun fact, Venom's opening when I'm there, but I'm not spending 2 hours of my time in Orlando hanging out with you. We still need to do our Pooh Bear
episode, too.
Blood and Honey.
Where you talk about Blood and Honey, and I talk about the sweet and innocence origination of Winnie the Pooh.
So many things. But yeah, we will talk about vampires. Next week is probably going to be Stephen King's Carrie. So if you got any thoughts on that, let us know.
See how fast I can read.
@gmail.com. Lauren's in a hurricane, so we're going to test her ability to read fast and how her dedication is to the podcast. Will she watch one?
I have another book
movies?
I have to finish first, and then I can read Carrie, and then I have to watch both movies.
You got a week. You got this.
Oh, okay.
You got this. I believe in you. I believe. Listen.
I believe. Oh, I can't sing that.
You got this. But anybody else, thanks for hanging out. I know we've kind of gone off the rails here, but you know what? That's what hurricanes do to a person. That's what real life does to a person. Zombies. We're in Halloween season. I'm going to go pick some pumpkins this past Halloween weekend.
We should, I got the best pumpkin patch pictures ever of Kaylee in 2005 after Hurricane Wilma because all the pumpkins were there and I got gorgeous photos of her and it was such a beautiful cold front. So there's a silver lining of a hurricane at Halloween time. Maybe I will get those opportunities again.
Make it so Disney isn't packed. Just saying.
That's what we're hoping. Brandy and Erica were just texting me about that. But we're also concerned that all the locals now have Friday off.
Oh, you're right.
So,
anyways, not my problem.
Shall see.
I won't be at Disney until the 25th of October. Thanks for hanging out again for the 5th time. We love Ms. Western goodbyes here. We'll see you next time. Stay away from cemeteries. Aim for the head. And don't look out any windows in your zombie apocalypse.